They say you don't know your true strength until being strong is the only choice you have. I discovered mine the day my life shattered into 1,000 pieces, all because I believed in a man who saw my love as nothing more than convenience. 6 months ago, my life in Boston had direction. I was Morgan Wells, 28, with an MBA and a rising marketing career. Then I met Tyler Bennett at a charity gala, tall, charismatic, from old New England money. His smile felt like coming home after a long journey. Within weeks, Tyler consumed my world. I became invisible to myself, but I didn't care. Each text, each stolen moment between his business meetings felt worth the wait. When he proposed after just 4 months, I thought I'd won life's lottery. 2 weeks before our engagement party, the marketing firm I worked for announced layoffs due to a merger. My entire department gone. Tyler's reaction wasn't what I expected. "We need to talk," he wrote. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "We'll figure this out." Just, "We need to talk." I told myself it was stress. His family's investment company was struggling, and I'd promised to contribute to our lavish wedding. So when my college roommate mentioned her father needed help organizing his law office's extensive records, I took the job without hesitation. Judge Anderson was a respected federal judge with 50 years of case files and 0 organizational skills. The pay was terrible, the hours worse. My hands cracked from the ancient paper and dust. One night, I sliced my palm open on a rusty file cabinet. When I called Tyler that evening, his laugh came through the phone like ice water. "It's actually hilarious that you think filing papers for minimum wage is going to help with our wedding. What exactly are you bringing to this marriage, Morgan? I need someone who enhances my life, not drags it down." His words sliced deeper than any metal edge. "I'm trying my best," I whispered, watching blood seep through my bandage. "Your best isn't enough. I've been thinking. This was a mistake. We're done." I called 19 times that night. By morning, my number was blocked, his social media wiped of any trace of me. The engagement announcement scheduled to run in the Boston Globe that Sunday was pulled without my knowledge. My apartment felt like a mausoleum, filled with wedding magazines and half-written thank you cards for engagement gifts we'd already received. I couldn't breathe, couldn't eat. For 2 weeks, I barely existed. The day I finally showered and changed my clothes, my phone rang. It was Zoe Mitchell, my best friend since freshman year at Emerson College, calling from her trauma surgery residency in Seattle. "I'm coming to Boston for a medical conference next month," she announced, "and I'm bringing someone special. His name is Marcus." For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of something other than grief. Genuine happiness for my friend. 3 weeks later, I opened my door to find Zoe, brilliant, vibrant Zoe, standing beside a man whose quiet confidence filled the hallway without effort. Dr. Marcus Pierce was head of trauma surgery at Seattle Grace, and the way he looked at Zoe made my heart ache with both joy and envy. "Morgan!" Zoe embraced me. "Marcus and I have news. We're engaged." I hugged her fiercely, choking back tears. "I'm so happy for you." And I meant it, despite everything. Despite the engagement ring I'd returned via courier. Despite my own broken dreams. "I want you to be my maid of honor," Zoe said, squeezing my hands. "The wedding's in 3 months." 3 months? I echoed, calculating how much I'd need to save from my meager filing job. "We don't want to wait," Marcus explained, his voice deep and kind. "Life's too short when you find the right person." When they left, I didn't cry. Instead, I called Judge Anderson and asked if I could take on extra hours. I would not let my broken heart rob my best friend of my full presence on her special day. 2 days before Zoe's wedding, I arrived in Seattle. The bridal party was staying at Zoe's parents' house in Queen Anne, and chaos reigned. The caterer had canceled last minute, and Zoe's mother was in full meltdown. "The church ladies insist they can handle it," Zoe explained, "but Mom's freaking out." Without thinking, I stepped in. Years of corporate event planning kicked in, and suddenly I was coordinating with the church volunteers, creating timelines and shopping lists. When the house's aging plumbing failed that night, I grabbed car keys and made 3 trips to fill water containers from a nearby convenience store. While other bridesmaids took selfies and complained about hair appointments, I steamed Zoe's dress and finished assembling gift bags. As I returned from a late-night emergency run for hairpins, I overheard an elderly woman speaking to Zoe's mother in the kitchen. "Who is that young woman?" she asked, nodding toward me. "That's Morgan, Zoe's best friend from college." The woman, Mrs. Chen, I later learned, a church elder, studied me thoughtfully. "That girl has something special. She works without complaint, never seeking attention. She only wants her friend's happiness." As I passed by with my armful of supplies, I smiled. "Ladies, you're doing amazing work." Mrs. Chen caught my arm. "We'd like to pray for you, dear." 5 women circled me in Zoe's childhood bedroom. Their hands rested lightly on my shoulders as Mrs. Chen spoke blessings over my life. I hadn't told anyone about Tyler, about my heartbreak, but somehow these women sensed my pain. "The love you give so freely will return to you tenfold," Mrs. Chen whispered. "Your generosity of spirit will not go unrewarded." I wept then, silent tears of release. For the first time since Tyler's rejection, I felt a weight lifting, not completely gone, but lighter. Zoe's wedding day arrived with perfect Seattle sunshine breaking through the clouds. Everything went beautifully. At the reception, watching Zoe and Marcus share their first dance, I realized I was smiling, genuinely smiling. After seeing the newlyweds off to their honeymoon in Hawaii, I headed back to my hotel near the airport. My flight to Boston left early the next morning. I stopped at the hotel bar for a nightcap and found myself seated next to a man in a crisp blue shirt, laughing into his phone. "I'll see you at Walter Reed next week," he said before hanging up. "The prosthetics team is excited about the new protocol." When he turned, I nearly dropped my glass. It was him, Dr. Ethan Reeves, the surgeon whose innovative techniques I'd researched for Judge Anderson's medical malpractice cases. His papers were revolutionary in trauma medicine. Our eyes met, and he looked startled. "I know you," he said, brow furrowed. I shook my head. "I don't think so." "No, I definitely do. Anderson's law office, right? You're the woman who organized his medical evidence files." I blinked in surprise. "You remember me from that?" He smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "You color-coded his expert witness testimonies, saved me hours of preparation for court." Dr. Reeves, Ethan, was a military surgeon who split his time between Walter Reed Medical Center and consulting on civilian trauma cases. He wasn't what I expected. No arrogance, just quiet competence and an unexpected sense of humor. When he asked for my number, warning bells rang. I'd sworn off men, especially successful, charming ones. "I can't," I said abruptly. "I'm not interested in dating." Instead of being offended, he nodded. "Fair enough. But I could use someone with your organizational skills at the trauma center. Our record system is a disaster." I laughed despite myself. "Are you offering me a job?" "Maybe I am," he replied, sliding his business card across the bar. "Think about it." Back in Boston, Judge Anderson called me into his office. He was retiring, which meant my temporary job was ending. As I cleared out my desk, his paralegal handed me a letter of recommendation so glowing it made me blush. That night, I found Ethan's card in my wallet. 3 days later, I was interviewing at Massachusetts General Hospital for a position as the trauma department's administrative coordinator. 6 weeks into my new job, I was finally learning to breathe again. The work was demanding but fulfilling. Ethan was professional, respectful, and kept a careful distance. Until the night of the charity gala, the same event where I'd met Tyler a year earlier. I attended as part of the hospital's administrative team. Halfway through the evening, I escaped to the terrace for fresh air and found Ethan already there, gazing at the city lights. "Running away?" he asked with a knowing smile. "Just needed a moment," I admitted. "Me too. These events always feel performative," I offered. He laughed. "Exactly." We stood in comfortable silence before he spoke again. "Morgan, I know you said you weren't interested in dating, and I've respected that. But I'd like to know if that's still your position." My heart raced. "I was engaged," I blurted out. "It ended badly." Ethan nodded. "I figured there was a story." Mine is that I was married for 4 years to someone who couldn't handle my commitment to medicine and the military. She left while I was deployed. Something in his quiet vulnerability cracked my carefully constructed walls. I'm not looking for perfect, he continued. Just real. Our first date was coffee in the hospital cafeteria. Our second was a walk along the Charles River. By our fifth date, I knew Ethan was different. Not because he was flawless, but because he saw me completely and valued what he saw. 3 months later, I moved into his Beacon Hill brownstone. 6 months after that, he proposed on the hospital rooftop where we often ate lunch together. We married in Judge Anderson's garden, with Zoe as my matron of honor and Mrs. Chen flying in from Seattle to read a blessing. Ethan's military colleagues stood at attention in dress uniform as we exchanged vows. Instead of a traditional honeymoon, we spent 2 weeks setting up a medical records digitization program at Walter Reed, and somehow it was perfect. Life settled into a rhythm of purpose and quiet joy. I became director of administrative services for the entire hospital, overseeing a team of 20. Ethan divided his time between surgery and research, developing techniques to help wounded veterans. And then, 18 months after our wedding, I saw him. Tyler Bennett stood across the auction floor, older but unchanged, still handsome, still radiating entitled confidence. His family's investment firm was sponsoring the event. When our eyes met, his widened in recognition. Throughout the evening, I felt his gaze following me as I moved through my duties, coordinating with staff and donors. When Ethan joined me, wrapping an arm around my waist and kissing my temple, I saw Tyler's expression darken. Later, as I checked on the silent auction displays, Tyler approached. "Morgan," he said, his voice exactly as I remembered. "You look different." "That's what happiness does," I replied evenly. He glanced toward Ethan, who was deep in conversation with the hospital board. "I heard you married a doctor. Military, right? Not exactly the stable choice." "Actually, it's the most stable thing in my life," I countered. "Ethan knows who he is and what matters to him." Tyler stepped closer. "I made a mistake, Morgan. I've regretted it every day since. A year ago, those words would have leveled me. Now, they barely registered." "That's unfortunate," I said, checking my clipboard. "But not my concern anymore." His confident smile faltered. "We had something real. You know that." I finally looked directly at him. "No, Tyler. We had something convenient for you and devastating for me. There's a difference." "I want another chance," he persisted. I laughed, not cruelly, but with genuine amusement. Why would I trade gold for fool's gold? Please excuse me. I have work to finish. As I walked away, I felt Tyler grab my arm. Before I could react, Ethan was beside us. "Everything okay here?" he asked, his voice calm but authoritative. "Just catching up with an old friend," Tyler said smoothly, releasing my arm. "Not friends," I corrected. "Tyler was just leaving." That night, as Ethan and I walked home through the quiet streets of Beacon Hill, I told him everything about Tyler, the heartbreak, the humiliation, the long journey back to myself. "Thank you," Ethan said when I finished. "For what?" "For everything that made you who you are today. The woman I love, even the pain." I squeezed his hand. "You know what's funny? I actually feel grateful to Tyler now." "Grateful?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "If he hadn't broken me, I might never have discovered my own strength. I might never have found you." 6 years have passed since that night. Ethan and I have 2 children now, a daughter named Chen after the woman whose prayers helped heal my heart, and a son named Anderson after the judge who gave me a chance when I needed it most. Last month, I read that Tyler's family firm collapsed under allegations of fraud. He's facing federal charges. When I saw his mugshot in the Boston Globe, I felt nothing but a distant pity. Sometimes, late at night when the house is quiet, I think about the woman I used to be. So eager to disappear into someone else's life that I forgot to value my own. I think about how the worst day of my life became the first step toward the best version of myself. The shattered pieces of who I was didn't disappear. They reformed into something stronger, something true. And in the end, That's the most American story I know. The freedom to fall, the courage to rise, and the wisdom to recognize real love when it finally arrives. Sometimes, the most beautiful thing that can happen is not getting what you thought you wanted. If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. And in the comments, share the moment you realized your worth. Your story could inspire someone else to rise too.